morning with. That was by Buna Muhammad, a letter to my daughter. So many things in there that are significant to many of us parents. So I mean to all those du'as, and may we be able to raise our daughters really well, inshallah. So you are tuned into Mother's Planet, a show where there is always something to talk about in a productive and beneficial way. I am your host, Neelum, and joining me in the studio this morning is my guest, my daughter, Sara. Assalamu alaikum, Sara. How are you, Sara?
I'm okay, alhamdulillah.
How good. And Sara, I will get Sara to formally introduce herself a little later in the show. But Sara, how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. Last week of college, so.
Yes, and it's the last week of school. So it's been quite a crazy week with lots going on. The schools are cramming in all the festive events, and everything's happening in the last week. We've also had poorly kids, but they are now getting better and alhamdulillah are back at school. So Sara, have you managed to escape any bugs?
Yeah, I haven't been ill this time, which is good.
Good. Alhamdulillah. Yes, that's really good. I was looking to see how the weather was going to be, but it's getting cold, but I can't see any signs of snow anywhere. So what do you think, Sara? Will it snow?
I hope it will. I like the snow.
Yes, we were blessed with it earlier on, very much early, and we thought it was going to be quite a snowy December, but we haven't had any this time round, and it's been quite bizarre not having any snow now. But it's getting cold and it's getting dark, which does make it the mood feel a bit gloomy. So, Sara, how do you feel about the holidays?
Yeah, it's good. I can't wait for those 2 weeks of just sleeping and doing nothing school related.
And just to add there, listeners, there will not be any sleeping. There will be lots of work going on, whether it's her housework or schoolwork. There'll be lots going on. Yes, sleep will be one of the least things that you'll be engaging in there, Sara. Now, listeners, we are live on air, reaching out to all our listeners in Luton and surrounding areas through the airwaves at 105. Inspire FM 105.1 FM. You can also connect to the show via TuneIn on the Inspire FM website. And we are also streaming live on the Inspire FM Facebook page, where you must give the show a thumbs up. And also you have the opportunity to ask any questions to either myself or my guest about today's topic, or whether you just want to tell us about how you're going to be embracing these holidays and the cold weather. Please do that. But as always, listeners, I am taking in WhatsApp or text messages on the studio number 07779 481 822, where you can just have a rant about the weather if you want, or just tell me what you're going to be getting up to over the holidays, and anything that you'd like to share with us this morning. Please do text in on that message text number. So, listeners, in this morning's show, Sara and I will be sharing some useful ideas to do over the holidays. Now, it's one of those confusing moments because we like to look forward to the holidays, because, as Sara mentioned, we are hoping to have a little bit more sleep and rest and not have to fight against the traffic and time, especially those mothers that are doing all the school runs, and dads. We are going to have that time in the morning, but we are stuck with the kids, so we have to try and think of things to keep them entertained. And with the weather being the way it is, we are limited as to what we can do. So inshallah, this morning I will be sharing some holiday activities that we can engage in with our children over the holidays to keep them busy, and also some recipes to keep them satisfied. But first, I've got Sara here with me this morning that is going to be sharing how to maximize your time when it comes to studying. Now, before I do this, and before I get Sara to share her ideas, she wanted to avoid this question, but I'm going to put it out there to her. Sara, can I get you to introduce yourself to the listeners, please?
Hi, I'm Sara. I'm an eldest daughter, and I'm in my second year of college, year 13.
So you're in your final year of A-levels.
Yeah.
So Sara is well equipped, hopefully, inshallah, to tell us all about how to make sure we can study. And as Sara is an A-level student, she's obviously got experience of what life was like as a GCSE student. So I know many children are now, having had their mocks and got some of their results, and now having that wake-up call about how they need to prep for their GCSEs. So Sara will be sharing some tips around that as well. So just starting off with that, Sara, tips around GCSEs. What would you say this time 2 years ago for yourself? How was it when you got your results and you had that wake up call of, right, I need to do something with my GCSEs? What would you recommend, now that hindsight's with you, that students that are studying for GCSEs, their final GCSEs, should do around about this time now?
So number one is pick up those topics where you're not so strong on and identify what they are and how you're going to get better at them. And the second thing is the most important thing, which is to start planning now. So start planning, organizing yourself, thinking. I think when we go back to school, there's 17 weeks left until GCSEs and A levels. So you've got to think about how to maximize those 17 weeks and get the most out of them before your exams start.
Yeah, so that's a good breakdown there for those children that are looking at, well, we've got plenty of time. 17 weeks does not sound like a long time. So, and if, especially if there's areas that students don't understand and topics that they're not fully aware of.
Yeah.
So would you do a topic breakdown for each subject?
So that could be a bit overwhelming, especially at GCSE. At A level, it's a bit easier because you've only got 3. If I was a GCSE student, again, I'd pick probably these subjects that I've struggled with the most for this holiday specifically, and I choose to just focus on those. So pick about 3-4 subjects and identify your weak areas, and then aim over the next 2 weeks to work on those.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I think the question that a lot of listeners are probably thinking, especially those parents that have got GCSE students, that are finding it hard to motivate them because, we have seasonal changes. And when it's hot, it's too hot, you can't focus. And when it's cold, it's, dark and gloomy, you can't focus. So while we're battling with the weather, what advice can you give to parents as to how they could help their GCSE students?
So first thing is, once your children get their mock results back, it's really important to talk through those mock results with them, understand what they think went wrong, what they think they need to do better, and sort of have that conversation is really important. Moving on from that, you're going to want to assist your child in making that list of weak topics, then look at it and then give your child, maybe make a revision plan together. Maybe say, okay, so what are you going to focus on each week of the holidays? And then after you've done that, at the end of the holidays, do a check back in. So go through that same list. What have you worked on? What do you still need to work on? Ask them if there's anything they need help with. Sometimes support isn't even in terms of what their revision, their work. Sometimes it's bringing them water when they're revising. Sometimes it's giving them quiet space. There's lots of ways you can support.
And bringing in the chocolate cookies. So in terms of structuring a timetable now, as you said, GCSEs is overwhelming because there's more than 3 subjects. Some students are studying up to 10 subjects, so it's quite overwhelming to try and pace yourself through those subjects and prioritizing which subject to do. So in terms of structuring a timetable and putting one together, how many hours or time would you recommend, and from your experience, do you think is more efficient per subject per day, and how would you structure your timetable?
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all method of making a revision timetable. What I would say is the most key thing is to keep it realistic. If, say, you say every single day of the holidays you're going to be revising for 6 hours, pretending it's a school day, it's not sustainable. You probably won't stick to that and you might burn yourself out. Instead, I'd say my main advice, especially with the weather being so cold and everything, is probably to stick your revision either in the morning or in the evening, so a time where you know you can focus, and then give yourself about 2-3 hours a day and break it into subject chunks. So there's a couple of ways you can split it. You can split it 25 minutes of studying, 5 minutes of a break, and you can do that 4 times every day, or you can do an hour, so 50 minutes of revising, 10 minutes break, and you can do 2 subjects a day. So it depends however much time you think you need to allocate per subject.
And I think earlier in the year, I did have a couple of teachers on talking to me about the difference between studying and revising. Is there a technique? So, if it's a subject that you're not familiar with, how would you recommend they study it?
So there's a method where you give half an hour to your studying, okay? So for the first 5 minutes, you're going sort of read the page in your textbook that goes over the subject, and that might not a lot might go in, but just keep reading that page just to understand the sort of what's going on. Then you're going to watch a video that should take about 10-15 minutes, and that video hopefully will break it down for science, maths, English at GCSE and at A-level. There's so much online, you just need to look for it. And then for the last, so where are we? We've got 5, 15, 20. So now we've got 10 minutes left. For the last 10 minutes, do an exam question or a couple of exam questions just to consolidate what you've learned. And then in that way, you've got half an hour and you've broken down your revision, and you should have got the subject topic by the end of that. So it's just, you've learned it and then consolidated it.
And what's your advice when it comes to note taking? How we're living in a technological world where everything is computer based. Do you think students should stick to that, or are you a fan of writing? What do you think is the best technique that you have found has worked for you, whether it's writing it, highlighting? What kind of note taking technique has worked for you?
So for me personally, I like my pretty notes, so I handwrite everything and they're all neatly organized and highlighted. Personally, handwriting works better than typing. I find that when I'm typing, nothing actually sticks in my brain. And I read a study about this yesterday that said actually handwriting, it activates more of your brain than typing does. So when you're typing, just one area of your brain is activated. When you're handwriting, you need to think about your fine motor skills. Your brain needs to be more activated and understanding what's going on. Therefore, your processing will be better. So my advice is handwriting is always better. And handwriting doesn't have to be the typical pen and paper. So you mentioned the technology that we have nowadays. You can buy a tablet, write on a tablet. You can use a pen on a laptop, write on a laptop. It's just about trying to use your motor skills in order for it to go into your brain.
And I think I agree with you, and it doesn't necessarily, I guess, have to be like starting from scratch. I'm a big fan of annotation, so you could have a text and you're annotating around there or adding notes to it. So that kind of note taking is also productive.
Yeah, I think it depends on the subject. So for something like English, that would be a very productive way of revising. For something like maths, I don't know what you would annotate, so annotating might not be as effective.
Yes. And how would you revise for maths?
Exam questions, lots and lots of exam questions is the best way to revise for maths, and science is the same. Science is a bit more content heavy than maths, but once you've got your content, science, maths, anything really is down to the exam questions. Because when you go into the exam, yes, they're testing your content, but they're testing it in the form of exam questions. So you need to be accustomed to doing exam questions. You don't want to be shocked when you walk into an exam like, oh my gosh, what is this?
And do you think someone can just do exam questions? So if there's a child that's not very confident with a subject, and let's pick a science subject, biology for example, and they're not fully 100% confident with some of the methods and theologies behind biology, and they're just going to go and sit exam questions, do you think that will be successful way of revising, or do you think no, stop, you need to understand the content? Is comprehension better, or is it just about knowing what kind of questions are going to be asked?
So there's no point doing exam questions if you don't understand what's going on, because you're just going to confuse yourself more. So recently there was a maths topic, it was a physicsy math topic moment, and I didn't quite understand the concept behind it, but I kept doing exam questions, and then I realized actually I can't do any of these exam questions. I'd get halfway through and get confused because I didn't understand the content. So it's really important to understand the content first, move on to your exam questions. Sometimes you can know all the content and an exam question could still confuse you, and in that case, yes, then we need to keep doing exam questions to see more of what's out there. But before starting an exam question, you have to understand the content. Otherwise, you're going to confuse yourself more. And at that point, you kind of want to give up. You kind of want to say, oh, I don't understand any of this. There's no point. So understand the content first and then move on to exam questions.
And earlier you mentioned about not being burnt out, and at 17 weeks, while it doesn't sound so long to some, it might be, well, that's just over 4 months. It's about 4 months. So when they break it down like that, over 4.5 months actually, nearly. And so people would think it's quite a long time, and if I start revising now, I'm going to burn myself out. What would you say? How can they find that fine balance of keep going, because you need to keep going, and especially when it comes to subjects like GCSEs, where there are 10 subjects almost, subjects to practice and learn. What's your advice there?
So I'd say that to avoid burnout, the best thing to do is come up with that, again, back to the sustainable routine, having something in place that doesn't mean that every single second of the day is spent revising. Also have ways to relax. So after you finish revising, maybe you want to make something, maybe you want to play some PlayStation, maybe you want to go out, take a walk. There's loads of other things to do. And so what all of this means is that you're not spending every single second of your day revising. It just feels like it's part of your life rather than something that you're adding against your will. So try to make revising your routine.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that a lot of students get overwhelmed with, and some are in a very privileged situations where they have older siblings that have gone through GCSE, so their notes are handed down, or they've had cousins or family friends that have gone through it. So even that child feels really happy passing on their good notes to another child. Would you agree that it's quite hard to take on someone else's notes and say, right, I'll just take these notes and learn from it?
Yeah, I would agree that it's quite difficult for some people more than others. I think firstly, when I make notes, I make it so that I will understand, I will know everything that's going on. So maybe me handing down my notes might be a bit confusing for the next person. I do think you can't discard the benefits of some people's notes. So in English literature, for example, you get your poetry anthology. If you get an annotated poetry anthology, make use of it. For example, that would be great. Something like, for example, say I didn't understand a topic and I wrote notes on a physics topic, my notes might be really difficult to understand. So you have to pick and choose kind of which notes you want to think are useful or not. I make most of my own notes. I don't have older siblings, so I'm the one making the notes. So it's a bit easier like that.
Rewriting other people's notes can often help, or not?
No, rewriting, highlighting, they're not really effective forms of revision. If you are rewriting, rewrite it into a different format. So rewrite into flashcards, make questions off the note material, and then test yourself. So for example, there's 3 types of revision. There's content-based revision, skill-based revision, and reflective revision. So content-based revision is what we were talking about at the start, going over content. And so that's your making mind maps, making flashcards, making notes, all of that. There's the skill-based, which is answering exam questions, using your flashcards to answer them. And then there's the reflective task. So that's what we're on right now, where you've got someone else's notes, or you've got a page of a textbook. And the best way to handle this is to make your own questions about it. So read it, make your own exam questions, don't answer them right away. So leave it for about a couple of weeks and then come back to those exam questions, just the questions, and test yourself again.
That is a good technique there. And thank you for breaking it down into 3 skill areas there. Listeners, believe it or not, we are now actually in the end of the first half of the show. I am joined by the lovely Sara this morning, who is sharing some exam techniques and how to study to make sure that we are maximising the time over the holidays for the children, and not just letting them have lie-ins and sleep. And also, just before we head over to the break, Sara, I have a question to you, and I like to just let you ponder on this while we go on to the break. If you were to speak to Sara, who was 2 years ago sitting her GCSEs, what advice would you give her? So have a think about that. But listeners, we are now heading over to a short commercial break. Use this time to refill your hot brew and join us after a short break. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Baba Ali. Please keep listening to Inspire FM 105.1. Assalamu alaikum.
Embark on a sacred journey with Halima Limited, your trusted local agent in Bury Park with 15 plus years of experience. Exclusive Hajj and Umrah packages for Pakistani passport holders start at just £7,900. Partnered with Saudi Hajj Company, we ensure a smooth, comfortable and spiritually fulfilling experience under the guidance of Sheikh Zubair Akbar. We handle all the details, including your Nusuk Hajj application, so you can focus on your devotion. Book today. Call 01582 343 075 or visit www.halima.co.uk.
Attention all electricians, builders and DIY enthusiasts. Capital Electrical Wholesalers are now open in Luton. It's a fully stocked branch with experienced staff on hand to help with all your electrical needs. With branches also in Greenford, Tottenham, Richmond and Ashton. Capital Electrical Wholesalers only stock the biggest names, including JCC, Saxby, Knightsbridge, Hamilton, MK, Wilex, Hager, Aco Smoke Alarms and many more. That's Capital Electrical at Unit M, Kingsway Industrial Estate. Call 01582 801122.
वेस्टबोर्न फार्मेसी हफ्ते के 7 दिन सुबह 9 बजे से लेकर रात 9 बजे तक खुली रहती है। हमारी सर्विसेज में शामिल हैं ट्रैवल वैक्सीनेशंस, स्टॉप स्मोकिंग, डायबिटीज चेक, बच्चों की ग़िज़ा और बहुत कुछ। लुटन और डंस्टेबल में फ्री प्रिस्क्रिप्शन, पिकअप और डिलीवरी सर्विसेज भी की जाती है। इसके अलावा आप मेडिसिन के इस्तेमाल के लिए फ्री मशवरा भी ले सकते हैं। वेस्टबोर्न फार्मेसी 198 B Dunstable Road, Luton. Corner of Westbourne Road. Telephone 01582 419 432.
Food Bank energy saving tips. Keep your fridge and freezer 3/4 full. Stocking your fridge and freezer with your favourite snacks will not only please the kids, but a fully not overstocked chiller is more efficient and therefore requires less energy to keep your food cool. To fill up your fridge on the cheap, fill the gaps with bottles of water. Also, let hot food cool before you put it in the fridge and cover moist food so the fridge does not waste energy evaporating the moisture.
Inspire FM Spectacular Winter Fair is back. Children on free school meals can enjoy fun fair rides, hot healthy meals and fun activities all completely free. Join us from Saturday 21st to Monday 23rd December at St. George's Square and Toko Youth Space. Register your child's spot at bit.ly/Inspire FM Winter Fair. Brought to you by Inspire FM in partnership with Active Luton and Toko Youth Space.
Assalamu alaikum. Since 1994, Families Relief has been providing aid to the neediest. Donate your zakat, sadaqah or lillah to help the people struggling in Gaza, Lebanon, Sudan and Yemen with food, water and medical aid. Your support makes a huge difference. Donate now. Call Families Relief at 0114 365 4454 or visit familiesrelief.org.uk. Families Relief, serving the needy.
There is a curse for every disease. A medical remedy best suited for that disease cures one at God's command.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Mother's Planet. It's Friday, 20th of December, and the time has now just gone 10:30. I'm your host, Neelum, and we are joined by the lovely Sara this morning. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Sara has been sharing some tips around how to study, and this is for GCSE and A-level students, and how to maximize the time over the holidays, and techniques of how to revise as well, which has been quite useful, because I'm sure many of us want to support our children but don't know how to do that. So she's given her advice there, and I did ask Sara the question just before the break, if she were to talk to herself, to the Sara 2 years ago who was sitting her GCSEs, what advice would she give herself?
So the two main pieces of advice I'd give myself is number one, don't get demotivated by the mock results. So the mock results don't define the outcome at the end, and it's much more common for mock results to be lower than what your actual GCSE results are. So don't let those mock results hold you back from thinking that you can get good grades. The second thing is to focus on consolidation rather than learning new topics. So lots of teachers might give you over the holidays new topics to learn. They call it flipped learning when you learn before the class. But if you don't understand the content that's come before all of that, there's no point doing flipped learning. So I'm not saying don't do your homework, but the idea is that if you think that, don't prioritize being ahead of your class over learning what's happened, because remember, you first started GCSEs almost a year and a half ago. So all of that stuff that you learned then is still going to come up in your exam paper, but you might not remember it because it was a long time ago. So focus on consolidation over learning new stuff always.
Well done. Well, thank you, Sarah. And that was my spontaneous question. And a lot of them have been quite spontaneous this morning, but thank you, Sarah. That's very key advice that you've offered there. And I think the final question that I wanted to sort of touch up on here about revision and studying over the holidays is a lot of children make notes, take notes, have printed paper, and everything just gets piled up into stacks of piles of paper. So what would you recommend in how to organize and, you know, put these aside so that it's easy to just grab that folder or grab, you know, how would you organize it?
So I'd put everything into folders, split it up by subject, or if it's GCSEs, because you've got 10 subjects, you don't want 10 folders. So try to combine your folders a bit. But for A levels, I've got 6 folders actually. I've got one for year 1 content, one for year 2 content. And so I find that putting everything in a folder is the best way to make everything easily accessible, but also keeping it organized. I am still guilty of the huge stack of paper at the end of every term that I need to put back into a folder. But as long as it's in a folder, it's not going anywhere. And you have to remember the reason the teachers are giving you these sheets, the reason you're printing out these sheets, these exam papers that you've done, they're all really important. They're all going to help you. So don't let it be 2 months, 1 month before your exam and you finally look through your stack of paper and you find something that could have helped you. Don't leave stuff until late. That's probably another bit of advice I would give to myself, is that just do it now. Everything you say you're going to do in a month, don't do it in a month, just do it now.
So avoid the procrastination, just get on with it. And I think that's a good advice there as well, because you know, the worst thing you can do is look back and say, oh, I wish I had just started a bit earlier. So I guess that's really important, as having gone through it yourself, to make sure that, you know, you're not. And I guess, do you think it's changed the way you are studying for your A levels now, your experience from GCSE?
I think I'm probably much more organized now. I've got a specific routine in place. I know how I'm going to revise. So in GCSEs, obviously with 10 subjects that are all very different, it's a bit harder to narrow down your revision. But now if I sit down to revise maths, I know, okay, so what I'm going to do first is write up my notes and then do exam questions. Or if I'm going to do English, it's okay, we're going to do a text analysis and then we're going to write an exam question. It's a lot easier now to have specific exam routines or study routines, whereas in GCSEs it was a bit harder. That's not to say it's impossible. It is just, obviously everything you're learning is a bit more broad. The specialization of A levels is a lot easier to deal with. There's just lots more content.
And I know I did say that it was my final question, but I guess a lot of students that are studying GCSEs right now are quite overwhelmed with the 10 subjects. And then when it comes to A levels, you only have 3. What advice can you give to a GCSE student that is looking to study A levels when it comes to picking A level subjects?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say, firstly, pick what you enjoy. Pick what you love and enjoy, because A levels are hard. And if you don't like what you're doing, there's no point, because you're going to suffer through 2 years of hating everything. And there's no point, because you're not going to do well in it. It's as simple as that. Second thing is, you don't have to know what you want to do, but it's nice if you want to do a specific career and you need specific A levels for it, look into it just before. So for example, you know, if you want to be a doctor, you have to do biology, chemistry, maths, they're doctor A levels. And without those A levels, it's impossible almost to go into medicine. So just be aware of that before you pick your A levels. It comes back to that regret thing. Don't let picking your A levels and then 6 months later being like, I wish I picked either what I love or what I needed for this job. Again, A-levels aren't the end of it. There's lots to do after A-levels, but make sure you enjoy what you do and are sensible about what you're picking. Another thing is you can pick 3 or 4 A-levels or 4.5 sometimes. Don't think that the more A-levels you do, the better. Sometimes focusing on 3 and getting really good grades in 3 is better than picking up a 4th and not doing so well across the board. So don't feel like you should take 4 A-levels. It doesn't make you a stronger candidate in most cases, whether you're applying to uni, apprenticeships, whatever you're doing. 4 A-levels won't actually help you that much. So just remember that as well.
Absolutely. And I guess there are some specific subjects that if you pick those subjects, you are allowing yourself to open up more avenues for yourself. So something like maths is a really good subject to keep as an A-level. And if it is one of your strong subjects, that's, I think, I've got a feeling she's going to agree or disagree with me here.
I would argue that as good as maths A-level is, it's also really difficult. So if you're doing average at GCSE and you think, there obviously there are people who've gone from grade 6s at GCSEs to getting A stars in their A-level maths. My maths teacher was saying he's seen it happen so many times. But there's also people who get grade 6s at GCSEs, even grade 9s at GCSEs. They think they really are good at maths, and then A-level maths comes and they realize they can't do it. So don't think because you're good at something at GCSE, it's going to be as easy as A-level. Mostly A-levels, they switch your content around. Everything's a bit different. And so it's a lot more difficult. So yeah, as great as maths is, as transferable as it is, it's not easy. One thing I would say is before you pick your A-levels, look at specifications. So look at the college you want to go to and then look at what exam board they do and then just Google exam spec, the same way you would do for your GCSE subjects. And then just look at the papers, look at what's studied. Do you like it? Do you think it would be interesting for you? And if you think so, then yeah, you can go for it. But if you're not doing your research, and loads of colleges don't offer switch courses, so you're kind of stuck with that for 2 years. You've chosen it and you're stuck with it. So don't let yourself be in that situation.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the worst situations to be in, where you've picked a subject and you actually now regret taking that subject. So I think have a good think, and that's good advice again about ones that A-levels that you've got 9s at GCSE, sorry, that you've got 9s in, doesn't necessarily indicate that that's your strong subject. It could just be that you answered those questions particularly well that day, so it's not a good indicator of how strong that subject is. Now listeners, I hope, and I don't have any doubt that everything that Sara shared this morning around revision and how to revise has been of benefit to you all, and I know that you are all keen to hear now how to keep the kids busy over the holidays and how to keep them so that they are engaged in something and not kicking off. So grab your pen and paper and jot down some notes. I'm going to be sharing a few things as well as some recipes with you now. So the first one is DIY crafts. So these are where you just have to let the craft box come out and you have to let the house get messy. Avoid glitter. I know that it's not one of my favorite ones, but create a snowflake decoration. So this is just using paper and scissors. And if you just go online, you could even look onto YouTube. There's lots of different techniques. Simple, you could do a really complex snowflake, or you can do really simple ones to start off for the younger ones and try and challenge the older ones. So snowflakes are really good decorations, and it keeps them busy as well. And it's also giving them the motor skills that they need to try and use scissors safely. Collect leaves from outside and make your own animals. My favorite one is a fox, which I think is the common one that a lot of people do make with using leaves. But you can make like a collage, make an actual animal using leaves and shape it into that animal shape, or just do a simple fox, pop the leaf down, goggly eyes and ears around it, and there you have a little fox. So that's quite fun to get active with, and also it requires minimal things out. You just need paper and glue, so it's not a lot of things coming out, and it's quite simple to do because we have a lot of leaves. Like I've been moaning about the leaves in the streets, we have a lot of leaves in the garden and everywhere at the moment, so you can collect those leaves. Get the Play-Doh and the Lego out. Let the kids get imaginative in their creations, who can make the best character or robot or whatever it is with the Lego and Play-Doh. Decorate gingerbread cookies or plain biscuits with icing and sprinkles. That's always a fun one for kids to have, and then they can eat it at the end. So that's kind of 2 in 1, where you've given them something to do and given them something to eat at the end. Outdoor activities, while we're trying to avoid the outdoors because it's cold or it's wet or it's miserable, do get the kids out there, go for a walk in around the blocks, or go to a local park, observe sounds and nature, make it a mindful walking session. What can you hear? What can you see? I did a show earlier in the year where I talked about mindful walking and all the different sounds that we hear outside. It's amazing what you can hear. Have a street cleanup, get the kids to wear protective gloves and tidy up the litter in your street, and be safe and cautious when doing this, especially with young children, that they are away from the roadsides and that they are stood safely and picking up things that aren't sharp and things that shouldn't be picked up. But it's a way of encouraging children to create a happy and clean neighborhood. And also they can do the same when it comes to cleaning their own driveway, cleaning your neighbor's driveway, just encouraging to be the good Samaritan and encouraging our children to grow like that. If we do have snow, get the kids out there and see what creations they can make with the snow, and have a snowball fight. Can't go wrong with a snowball fight. Groom the garden. Get the kids to pick or de-weed the ground, the patio area, pick up litter or leaves from the floor, trim back bushes and overgrown hedges. So just give the garden a bit of a tidy. I think it's one of the places that gets neglected over the winter. So just to make sure that when it comes to the warmer months, the garden still looks sane, and you can make sure that you are doing that still over the winter. So get the kids involved, get them all doing that. Get some friends together and organize a scavenger hunt. This could be in your own garden or at a local park where you are hiding things or asking children to go and look for things. It's quite fun. You can get lots of printout online with different leaves, different things that to look out for, a squirrel, acorns, loads of things that they can look out for in the park and see how many they can find and who's found what. So they are quite good activities to do so. And indoor fun. This is something that we're going to be doing lots of, but have a family movie or movie night, movie day, get some popcorn ready. And, there's lots of classics over the seasonal holidays. There's a lot of classic movies that are going to be on the television. So, you can just curl up on the sofa with the kids and enjoy some movies. Bring out the board games, get all the board games, maybe set a game for a day, challenge kids with the difficult games and get them to engage in different games. Build a puzzle. This is a really good one, and I know that a lot of people try and do this, especially over seasonal holidays, because you are stuck inside and you are doing things. But doing a puzzle together, I know that we did one. How many pieces was that? Was it 1,000?
1,000, I think. Yeah,
it was a 1,000-piece puzzle. And after it was made, we refused to pull that one apart. So I brought some puzzle glue and put that one together, and it's framed now. But it's a good, if you've got puzzles that are as big as that, it's a good thing to do where, it's something that you all took part in. Each day we were doing, I think we gave up. My son persevered with it. He really, we started off on the table, and I think I got so frustrated because I wanted my dining table back, but he persevered and he did it. So yeah, build a puzzle, and you can get hold of some puzzle glue, which just joins it all together, and then you can frame that so it could be something as a memory that you all put together as a family. Have a bake-off, rota a child for each day to bake something for the family. This could be savory sweets, something simple, something that they've put up together themselves, and see who can make the best cakes. So yes, get prepared for lots of cakes and biscuits. Read books. read books, enjoy some downtime, crochet, knitting, number painting. Make sure you have an activity set where the children are doing a mindful activity where they are focused and having that downtime as well. You can get lots of online mindful coloring pictures as well. So just get kids to engage in that and really think about their coloring and have that downtime so you can have that cup of tea. Once you boil the kettle about 5 times, you can finally get that cup of tea. Decluttering. Have a family clear out day. This could be toys, clothes, and separate the days. Maybe pick a day for toys and pick a day for clothes, and teach the children to donate and to give things away, especially those things that they don't use. I think it's a really important characteristic to instill in children about if you're not using it, if you haven't accessed it for longer than 3-4 months, then it's something that you're not going to pick up. So maybe somebody else can make more better use of it, and teach them to be able to happily give things away. Organize the house, putting things away and rearranging things and how things are set up. Maybe get the kids involved and pick a room at a time. It could be their bedroom, it could be your living space. Get them to give you ideas of how to maybe reorganize or decorate the sitting areas, or just decluttering. And it's always nice when the kids get involved, because you're more likely to have that space stay clean when the kids do it. When it's yourself doing it, the kids do not appreciate the effort that it takes to keep that space clean. But when it's done themselves, I think they are more keen to keep the space clean. So do get them involved. And lastly, it's education and learning, as Sara has kindly offered and shared all of her advice around keeping up with your revision techniques of revision, organizing your timetables, sticking to that. Maybe for the younger children, starting a winter reading challenge. I know some schools have enforced this and are offering prizes for those children that are reading the most over the holidays. So maybe we can continue this at home and get our children to read different books and start with that. Take visits to the library as well, where they are borrowing books so they can give them back. Don't get bogged down with buying books so that you're stuck with those books once they've read them. The library is a really fantastic place to go and borrow books, and obviously you can exchange books and get more different ranges of books without having to store them or stock them on your own shelves at home. Create a word bank with challenging words to spell or read or write. So if children come across difficult words in some of their reading books, get them to note those words down and create a word bank, and then encourage the children to practice using these words in either their writing or their speaking. And it's a good way of improving our children's vocabulary and getting them to use words that we're not really used to using. Keep reading the Quran. Connecting with the Quran is a good opportunity, and this is for both adults and children. We need to remind ourselves of how to stay connected with the Quran as well. Have a maths challenge, quick fire times tables, or more challenging activities like fractions and divisions, just to keep them thinking around numbers. So they're my tips of how to keep the children busy. There's quite a few things there that I hope listeners were able to jot down. I have some quick winter recipes. I'm conscious of time because we've got about 6 minutes left of the show. So I'll whiz through these. I won't be giving any weights or amounts or methods of how to use it, but they are quite straightforward recipes. So winter warmers, these are really good starters, and they're like soups. So you've got the creamy tomato soup with grilled cheese bread. So you can blend vegetable into a broth, mainly tomatoes, potatoes, carrots, onions. Add some cream and seasoning to this, and then blitz it. And you can pair this up with some cheese, toasted sandwiches, or you could just have bread and butter with that. You don't have to have the cheese if you don't want the extra calories, but the kids need it. they can have that. We've got mushroom soup, saute mushrooms with onions and seasoning, and then add some cream and again blend together, and you can eat it as it is. It's quite nice to have. It's got a very nutty texture, mushroom soup. It's very nice. You can eat it as it is, or again have this with bread. Hot chocolate. Can't go wrong with hot chocolate. Mix some cocoa powder, sugar and milk, and top it up with, heat it up over a stove, and then top it up with cream and marshmallows. That will definitely go down as a treat with the kids, and they will definitely like that. Snacks, fruit and nut mix. Combine some dried fruits. We are at that season where it's quite easy now to get hold of lots of a variety of dried fruits now and nuts, and you can mix these with the seeds as well for a healthy trail mix. And cheese and olive skewers. So cut out some cheese cubes, cherry tomatoes and olives, and pop them on a skewer and just leave them there for the children to have as a snack. It's also a good way of getting children to like olives, especially when it's combined with something else like cheese, because they're quite strong flavors. Hummus, have some hummus with some salad around it. So sliced cucumbers, sliced carrots, celery sticks. A good way of encouraging some healthy snacks there. Easy meals, 1 pot chicken pasta, saute some chicken pieces with garlic, onion, and add some tomato sauce, cooked pasta and seasonings, and that's your pasta done all in 1 pot. And that's a good lunch for them to have. It's very filling because of the chicken, so they've got their protein and carb balance there. A vegetarian pizza, or you could make a meat pizza. Use pre-made crust, very easy to buy. Top this up, and you can get the kids involved in this as well. Top this up with cheese, veggies, and any other toppings that they like. So if they've got specific foods or vegetables that they like, they want to add, you can add these to the pizzas. You can also use pita bread. Just get some pita bread and put some tomato puree, cheese, and bake these in the oven, and they've made their own pizzas. So that's them making their own lunch there. Stuffed bell peppers, hollow out a bell pepper and stuff it with cooked rice, cooked mint or chicken, and spices, and then bake until the peppers are tender. And that's really nice because the flavor of the peppers is absorbed into the rice and the meat or the chicken, and it really heightens the flavor there as well. So that's quite a nice one. My favorite one here is samosa pinwheels. So use rolled out puff pastry, ready-made puff pastry, and you can fill this with cooked meat or veggies. Just potatoes and peas is a good one. Roll it up so you're making like a Swiss roll, and then cut it into slices, and then just brush some egg wash over the top and bake these, and you have some samosa pinwheels, and they're really nice and quite filling as well. And sweet treats, can't forget the sweet treats. So we've got no bake date balls. Again, they are in season at the moment, so you can get some dates, pit the dates, blend it with almonds and a pinch of cinnamon, roll them into balls and coat with either desiccated coconut or sesame seeds, and then just let them sit. These can be refrigerated so that they don't they just hold their firm. They are firmer, and they hold their shape better when they are kept refrigerated. But they are really quick snacks. And again, you can stuff these with whole almonds. You can put chocolate in the middle of it just to make it a bit more appetizing for the children, because it is dates at the end of the day. Mini pancakes, making some pancakes drizzled with honey and spread with chocolate spread. Pancakes is an all-goer. You can have it as breakfast, as snack, any time of the day really. So mini pancakes are always good. So listeners, that's my recipes there and my advice of how to keep the kids busy. Sara, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Just take the time to rest this holidays, and as important as exams are, just remember that this isn't the end, so don't stress yourself out, but do well, and yeah, take your time and everything will work out, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Sara. And again, thank you, Sara, for taking the time out to join me this morning and to share with the listeners your advice around revising, and some really sound advice you did share there as well about, I think just at the end there, that it's very important to encourage that time out and the regular breaks, and nourishment. Feed and fuel your brain with good things, and I think those no-bake date balls are probably my all-time favorite, because it's a mixture of dates and almonds, both things that we believe are good foods for your brain. So indulge in those. Now I will be taking a break over the Christmas holidays, so inshallah we'll be back in the new year. So Jummah Mubarak to everybody. I wish everyone safe and happy holidays. Salam alaikum.
And the foremost in faith will be foremost in the hereafter. Those are the ones